During the floating phase, there is a strong mutual relationship between the leading and trailing legs. The faster the trailing leg swings forward, the faster the leading leg will swing towards the rear. The most important aim of the scissor motion is to position the legs correctly before the following pace. When the pendular swing of the trailing leg is slow, then the leading leg will have to wait, so to speak, for its arrival. The scissor motion will have been executed rapidly enough if the knees are side by side at the moment of foot placement. Athletes who run technically correctly can even bring the knee of the swing leg ahead of the knee of the stance leg by the time of foot placement. It is clear that such runners move the trailing leg rapidly by simultaneously bending the knee and hip. Other less technically adept athletes who demonstrate a slower pendular action often bend the knee first, as seen on the right, and only thereafter the hip. This so-called circular backward swing is frequently observed, and its effect is quite detrimental for a running technique. The trailing leg covers a longer trajectory, causing the leading leg to wait for its arrival. Such a delay will cause much tension to be lost during the landing. The position of the foot on the trailing leg can influence the velocity of the scissor movement. If the ankle remains extended too long, as seen in this runner, the scissor movement will lose speed. The iliopsoas will become active earlier if the ankle assumes a neutral position rapidly after foot loose. A neutral position implies that the angle formed by the lower leg and foot is 90 degrees. The foot on the leading swing leg must also be in a neutral position just before foot placement. A neutral position will guarantee that there is sufficient pre-tension in the lower leg to make efficient use of the landing energy. The lower leg muscles run along both the front and back of the ankle and can only exert much force within a limited range of fiber lengths. When the foot is allowed to droop, very little force can develop for a well-controlled foot placement. In order to evaluate globally the quality of a running technique, an excellent indicator would be the relationship between the duration of the floating and stance phases. A good technique is characterized by having a longer floating phase. In other words, technically correct runners spend more time in the air than on the ground. A short stance phase offers three advantages. First, elastic energy stored in muscle can be used optimally. Second, the trailing leg leaves the ground early and can therefore swing forward more rapidly. As a result, the leading leg will swing faster to the rear and the foot will land directly beneath the hip. Third, disruptive rotations in the upper body can be avoided. The first contact or foot placement is the point when the entire weight of the body comes to rest upon the foot of the stance leg. It is important to note that this is not the same moment that the foot first touches ground. There is always a small amount of time between the two occurrences. This fact should also be taken into consideration when discussing landing on the heel and the front of the foot. Although it is the heel of the front runner that first touches ground, the weight of the body is not yet resting upon the foot. Not until the entire weight of the body has come to rest upon the support leg will the forces pass through the forefoot. Although the forefoot of the last runner has perhaps touched ground first, there are still no large forces working upon the foot. When the entire body weight is resting upon the support leg, then forces can also move through the last runner's forefoot. The difference between so-called heel and front foot runners is therefore unclear. The way in which the landing forces are absorbed, in the calf muscle for example, is nearly the same in both cases. The technique will demand that upon first contact with the ground, the landing is absorbed as optimally as possible. The landing energy must be loaded as much as possible as elastic energy. This muscle stretch can thereafter be unloaded as elastic energy and thus contribute to the following push-off. This mechanism will work optimally if the position of the body at the moment of foot placement complies with two demands. 1. The foot must be in a neutral position directly beneath the body. The foot must not droop before landing. Retracting the toes serves to create pretension in the lower leg muscles, thus enabling a hard landing. A runner would slow down if the pre-tensed foot was placed on the ground ahead of the hip. By executing a rapid scissor movement just before landing, the foot will land directly beneath the hip. The force of landing will then pass through the front of the foot. Usually, the heel of a long-distance runner, but not of a sprinter, will touch the ground. The foot can only be placed directly beneath the hip if no disruptive forward or long axis rotations have developed. 2. The knees must be approximately side by side at the moment of foot placement. Here, the arms must be kept close to the trunk that should be held upright. This is the best position to assume in order to absorb the large forces released during the landing.